Here are Grandma's 40 embroidery hacks and tips that you wish you knew sooner. Cut thread short to stop tangles. Keeping your thread length short makes all the difference in avoiding knots. Grandma always said, less thread, fewer problems. And it's true, short strands reduce friction and fraying. Aim for 12 to 18 inches per cut so you can manage stitches without tangling. Long strands may seem efficient, but often slow you down. Thread tends to twist as you work, and short lengths minimize buildup. Also, rethreading gives you a moment to smooth your floss. Rotate your needle as you stitch to unwind twist before it tightens. Use thread conditioner if tangles persist. Wax floss to fight knots. Did you know that beeswax has been used for centuries to tame embroidery thread? Waxing your floss before threading the needle coats the fibers, making them glide through fabric with less friction. This also strengthens the thread slightly, which reduces fuzzing and breakage during longer projects. It's especially helpful when working with metallic or specialty threads prone to snagging. Gently run the floss through a wax cake and press it flat between fingers. Store your wax in a small container to prevent dust buildup. Use light wax coats to keep texture soft and flexible. Pull strands apart for smoother stitches. Separating embroidery floss strands before threading leads to cleaner, more even stitches. Each embroidery floss usually contains 6 strands twisted together, and many projects only require 2 or 3. Grandma taught us to separate them one at a time, which allows the threads to lay flat and smooth once stitched. This reduces bunching and improves the visual consistency of your work. Tug gently to avoid fraying or knotting during separation. Use your thumb and forefinger to pinch and guide each strand slowly. Always realign strands side by side before rethreading for balanced tension. Match needle to thread thickness. Choosing the right needle size for your floss ensures smoother stitching and cleaner fabric holes. Thicker threads need larger eyes, while fine floss pairs best with delicate needles. If your needle is too small, it will shred the floss. Too large, and it will damage the fabric. Using the correct combination minimizes resistance and speeds up your work. Always test your pairing on scrap cloth before beginning. Consider using a needle gauge to stay consistent between projects. Label needle sizes in a pincushion so you can quickly grab the right one every time. Grab chenille needles for thick floss. When using bulkier threads like pearl cotton or multiple strands of floss, chenille needles are your best friend. These needles have a large eye that accommodates thicker threads, yet they remain sharp enough to pierce tightly woven fabric. Their structure makes them ideal for textured embroidery work like crewel or stump work. They're also easier to thread, especially for aging eyes or dim light conditions. Chenille needles come in various sizes. Always match needle size to thread weight and fabric density. Keep chenille and tapestry needles sorted in separate cases to avoid mix-ups during projects. Snap needles on a magnetic minder. Keeping track of needles mid-project can be frustrating without a proper system. A magnetic needle minder gives you a safe, convenient place to store them while you pause or switch threads. These handy tools come in decorative designs that snap onto your fabric or hoop. No more poking needles into the armrest or losing them in your couch. They also protect tips from bending or dulling. Place the magnet on the front of your hoop and anchor it with a washer on the back. Choose strong magnets to hold multiple needles without sliding. Switch to an old needle for metallics. Metallic threads are notoriously tricky, and Grandma always kept a worn needle just for those shimmery strands. Old needles have a smoother eye from use, which reduces friction and stops the metal coating from peeling off as easily. These threads fray quickly when dragged through sharp or new needles. Avoid pulling metallics tightly. Let the needle guide them through with minimal stress. Store older needles in a labeled case for specialty use. For stubborn frays, snip the end at an angle and rethread. Waxing the thread lightly also keeps it smooth and manageable during long stitching sessions. Start with a loop to skip tails. One clever way to anchor your thread without messy tails is using the loop start method. This technique works best with even numbers of strands. Double one long strand and thread the cut ends through the needle. Begin stitching and pass the needle through the loop at the back of the fabric. This secures the thread with no need to hold or stitch over a tail. It makes for a cleaner finish and fewer thread knots on the backside. Avoid using this method with specialty threads or uneven strand counts, as it may twist or pull unevenly. Use a threader to load needles fast. Threading needles can slow down your momentum, especially when switching colors or using thicker floss. A needle threader makes the process quicker and less frustrating. Just insert the wire loop through the needle eye, place the thread in the loop, and pull it back through. Some threaders come with built-in cutters or magnifiers to improve visibility. Be gentle. Threader wires bend easily. Always store them in a sturdy case to keep the wire from kinking. For smaller needle eyes, choose fine threaders that won't catch or break. Label threaders by size if you use multiple types. Wiggle needle to relax tension. If your fabric starts puckering or your stitches look too tight, try gently wiggling the needle as you pull the floss through. This subtle motion helps distribute tension evenly and relax the thread before it locks in place. Holding the fabric taut with your hoop helps, but it's the small adjustments that smooth out each stitch. Avoid yanking the thread. Slow, firm movements are better. This technique also reduces floss fray and drag. Test your pull tension on scrap fabric before committing to your design. For delicate stitches like satin or long and short, this habit keeps results clean. Pre-wash fabric so it won't shrink. Pre-washing your fabric before stitching helps avoid unpleasant surprises after you've spent hours embroidering. Most cottons and linens shrink slightly when laundered, which can distort or bunch your stitch designs if not washed ahead of time. Use cold or lukewarm water and mild detergent, then press with an iron to smooth. Pre-washing also removes sizing chemicals or dust that may irritate sensitive skin. Be sure to trim frayed edges or zigzag. Stitch them before washing to prevent unraveling. Iron while damp for best results. Always test fabric color fastness to ensure dyes won't bleed onto threads later. Fuse interfacing to steady fabric. If your fabric is too floppy or distorts under your hoop, fusing lightweight interfacing to the back offers extra support. This backing creates a firmer surface that holds stitches better and prevents puckering. Cut a piece of fusible interfacing slightly larger than your design area and iron it on with low heat. Choose interfacing types meant for delicate embroidery. Some are tear-away or water-soluble for easy removal. Always follow manufacturer instructions for best adhesion. For tricky fabrics like muslin or linen, this extra reinforcement can transform your stitching results. Store interfacing rolled or flat to avoid creases or wrinkles. Wrap hoop to keep it from slipping. Securing fabric begins with a solid grip. Wrap the inner hoop with bias tape, twill, or even strips of cotton to increase friction between the fabric and the hoop frame. This stops slippage, especially when working on smoother fabrics like linen or synthetics. Avoid wrapping too thickly or unevenly. Consistency is key to keeping your fabric taut. Rewrap when the fabric loses tension or when tape frays. For trickier projects, try using rubber bands beneath the fabric edge. You can also mist the fabric very lightly before hooping to enhance grip without warping the weave. Loosen hoop, don't overstretch. Fabric pulled too tightly across a hoop can warp both the material and the stitches. Instead of cranking the tension drum tight, let it rest snugly with a little give. A gently pressed finger should bounce back with slight resistance. This ensures your thread doesn't bite into the fabric and keeps your final design from distorting. Overstretching also risks tearing or weakening fibers. Loosen the hoop between sessions to avoid permanent tension lines. For added care, try placing felt between the hoop and fabric to soften pressure points during long stitching sessions. Seal fabric in bags to keep clean. Protecting your embroidery from dirt, lint, and oils begins with proper storage. Use large resealable bags or breathable drawstring cotton sacks to hold fabric, hoops, and threads between sessions. Choose a bag that fits without folding the fabric to prevent creases. Keep projects away from direct sunlight, which can fade dyes and weaken threads. Label each bag with the project name and progress date. If your fabric is especially delicate, wrap it in acid-free tissue inside the bag. Store upright in a plastic bin to prevent squishing, and never store near moisture or cooking spaces. Mark dark fabric with chalk or white pen. Did you know that soap slivers from hotel bars or tailor's chalk make excellent temporary fabric markers for dark material? These alternatives are budget-friendly and vanish with a damp cloth or light brushing. White gel pens can also provide precise lines, though some require heat to disappear. Always test your marker on a hidden corner to avoid staining or ghosting. For best results, mark designs just before stitching to limit smudging. Keep markers in a pencil case to avoid crushing the tips. Avoid oil-based white pens. They often bleed into fabric and can't be removed cleanly. Mark light fabric with a friction pen. Using friction pens is an efficient way to mark embroidery patterns on light-colored fabric. These pens leave clean, visible lines that disappear when heated with an iron. Trace lightly to prevent deep impressions. Always test on scrap fabric first, as some materials may retain faint lines even after heat is applied. Avoid steaming the fabric before removing lines, as it can set the ink permanently. Keep the cap tightly sealed to prevent the pen from drying out. Store pens in a cool spot, as extreme heat in storage can fade the ink prematurely. Keep extra hoops ready for projects. Working on more than one embroidery piece, keeping extra hoops ready makes switching between projects quick and easy. Use separate hoops for each work in progress to maintain fabric tension and prevent wear from repeated rehooping. Store each hoop with its threads and pattern in a labeled bag or tray. Choose hoops in varying sizes to match different fabric sections or motifs. Always inspect hoops for warping, especially wooden ones that might swell or dry out over time. Wipe hoops clean after use to remove any oil or lint, ensuring long-term durability. Tape edges so fabric won't fray. Keeping fabric edges from unraveling preserves your canvas for longer stitching sessions. Use painter's tape, masking tape, or medical tape to seal the perimeter of your fabric square. Apply the tape gently along the raw edges without stretching it, pressing firmly to ensure it holds through hooping and handling. This saves time compared to hemming or zigzagging the edge. Replace the tape if it lifts or loses stickiness. If working with very delicate materials, consider using bias binding instead to avoid adhesive residue that can be hard to wash out. Mist and iron out hoop marks. After finishing a piece, hoop marks can leave unsightly rings on your fabric. Grandma always misted her cloth lightly with water and then used a warm iron, never hot, to smooth it back out. Don't press too hard, as it can flatten the stitches. Let the fabric relax before applying heat, and work from the back to avoid damaging your embroidery. For more stubborn creases, place a pressing cloth between your work and the iron. Store finished projects flat or rolled to keep new marks from forming after all your careful work. Wash hands before stitching. Clean hands are your embroidery's first defense against staining. Natural oils, lotions, and invisible dirt can transfer easily to fabric and floss, dulling the brightness and leaving permanent spots. Before you pick up your needle, take a moment to wash thoroughly with unscented soap and dry completely. Avoid eating or applying hand cream mid-project. Keep a small towel nearby if your hands get warm or damp while working. For longer sessions, consider cotton gloves to protect delicate fabric. Good hygiene saves hours of cleanup and helps preserve your project's crisp finish. Stab for precision, sew for speed. Knowing when to stab or sew your stitches makes a real difference in detail work. The stab method, bringing the needle fully up and then fully down, offers better control and cleaner stitches, especially for small or tight areas. The sewing method is faster and more fluid, but sacrifices a bit of accuracy. Use stab stitching when outlining, working curves, or using delicate threads. Switch to sewing when filling large blocks of color or repeating basic lines. Whichever method you use, focus on consistency and even spacing to make your finished work shine. Keep stitch direction uniform. Uniform stitch direction gives your embroidery a polished and intentional look. Varying angles or erratic patterns can distract from the overall design. Plan your stitching path before beginning each section, especially in satin or long and short stitches where light reflects clearly. Try to always move in the same direction, left to right or top to bottom, depending on the shape and layout. Use a reference image or sample swatch to guide complex patterns. Take photos of your work in progress to check for irregularities. Even subtle consistency improves how professional your finished piece will appear. Blend strand counts for shading. Creating smooth shading in embroidery doesn't always require dozens of thread colors. You can adjust the strand count within your needle to make subtle shifts. Start with 6 strands of a darker tone, then gradually reduce the number or mix with lighter strands as you go. This method works especially well for petals, feathers, and natural gradients. When blending, keep tension even to avoid bumps. For best results, stitch in the same direction consistently. Use a single thread of a brighter shade to highlight specific sections within your gradient. Drill French knots on scrap fabric. French knots are one of the trickier stitches to master, so practicing on scrap fabric is essential. Wrap the thread evenly around your needle and hold the tension steady while pulling through. Use an embroidery hoop to maintain fabric tension and prevent puckering. Repeating the motion multiple times helps build muscle memory for smooth results. Adjust your wraps depending on the knot size needed. Make sure to bring the needle down just next to, not through, the original hole. Try practicing different thicknesses of thread for more textured knot effects. Outline before filling with satin stitch. A clean satin stitch looks best when framed with an outline to guide your work. Start by stitching a border around the shape using split stitch or backstitch. This outline helps contain your satin stitches, keeping them aligned and giving a defined edge. Use the same or a matching thread color for a seamless appearance. Always stitch across the shape in even parallel lines to create a consistent sheen. Avoid pulling too tightly or your fabric may pucker. Try a doubled outline if the shape is unusually wide or curved. Whip backstitch for bold outlines. If you want bold outlines that still look neat, try whipping over a backstitch. Begin with a regular backstitch along your line, then take a second thread and weave it under each backstitch segment without piercing the fabric. This adds a raised, rope-like texture and makes the outline stand out. Use contrasting or metallic thread to enhance the effect. Maintain light tension when whipping to avoid puckering. This technique works well for lettering, borders, or floral stems. Combine whipped outlines with satin filling for vibrant, clean, and controlled designs. Pair metallic with regular floss. Metallic threads can be frustrating on their own, but pairing them with a strand of regular cotton floss helps control their behavior. Use one strand of metallic and one strand of standard thread in the same needle. The cotton stabilizes the metallic, making it easier to stitch and reducing tangles. Always use short lengths, 12 inches or less, to minimize fraying. Avoid threading directly through tight areas and instead opt for surface stitches. Store metallic threads separately to prevent them from fraying against rougher floss types or unraveling unexpectedly. Couch thick yarns instead of pulling. When using thick threads or specialty fibers, couching provides control without damaging the fabric. Lay the thick yarn on top of your fabric and tack it down with small stitches using a finer thread. This keeps the yarn secure while avoiding the need to pull it through tightly woven cloth. Couching adds texture and color variation, especially for outlines or decorative accents. Use matching or invisible thread for subtlety or contrast for effect. Vary the couching distance for more dynamic texture. Try twisted yarns for even more depth and visual appeal. Wind floss on bobbins and label. Keeping your threads tangle-free starts with winding floss onto bobbins. This prevents knots and saves time when switching colors. Label each bobbin clearly with the color code to avoid confusion later, especially when following a pattern. Plastic or cardboard bobbins both work well depending on your preference. Organized storage reduces frustration and keeps your workspace tidy. Sort by color family for quicker access. As a tip, use a permanent fine tip marker so labels don't fade with time or handling. Clip bobbins together on rings. Managing groups of floss is easier when bobbins are clipped together by project. Use metal or plastic binder rings to keep bobbins sorted and portable. This method is perfect for working on multicolor designs without scattering supplies. Choose a ring size that's easy to flip through while stitching. Group them by section or thread type if your pattern calls for lots of shading. To avoid mix-ups, always reclip after use. Try adding a tag with the project name to each ring for simple identification. Pack a mini travel kit to stitch anywhere. Being prepared to stitch on the go can keep your hobby portable and fun. A small pouch with essentials, thread, needle, scissors, hoop, and fabrics lets you embroider during downtime. Choose compact tools designed for travel, like foldable scissors and mini hoops. Keep only the colors you need for your current project. Store thread on pre-wound bobbins to save space. Include a needle threader if you're working in less than ideal lighting. As an extra tip, stash a scrap piece of fabric for test stitches or warm-up practice. Light it up with a daylight lamp. Good lighting is essential for neat, strain-free embroidery. A daylight-balanced lamp simulates natural light, making colors appear accurate and reducing eye fatigue. Adjustable neck lamps allow you to angle light exactly where needed. Choose a lamp with multiple brightness settings to match different times of day or room conditions. Clip-on versions are great for small desks, while floor lamps offer wider coverage. Avoid warm or yellow bulbs that distort thread colors. Keep a backup battery-powered light in your kit for power outages or travel use. Park projects on a stand to free your hands. Embroidery stands take the pressure off your hands and wrists while keeping fabric taut. They allow for more precise stitching and are ideal for longer sessions. Whether using a table clamp, lap stand, or floor model, choose one with an adjustable angle. This frees up one hand to guide the thread and the other to stitch. A stand also helps maintain posture and reduces shoulder strain. For added convenience, attach a pin cushion or scissors holder directly to the frame so everything stays within reach. Rest often to protect your wrists. Did you know that hand embroidery can put strain on your wrists, similar to typing or knitting for long hours? Repetitive motions lead to inflammation over time. Grandma used to pause every half hour, shake her hands out, and sip tea. Something worth adopting today. Incorporate gentle wrist stretches between sessions to ease tension. Avoid tightly clenching your needle or hoop. If discomfort persists, wear a wrist brace while stitching. As a bonus tip, place a small cushion under your forearm for extra ergonomic support. Stash whips in zipper bags with floss. Keeping your works in progress organized makes stitching more enjoyable. Use clear zipper bags to hold your fabric, floss, needles, and notes in one place. This method prevents thread tangling and fabric snagging. You can label each bag with the project name and last stitch point. It's also an easy way to take projects on the go without losing key components. Group them in a bin or basket for easy access. For added efficiency, toss in a mini threader and backup needle just in case. Snap progress photos to catch errors. Snapping photos of your work in progress helps spot misaligned stitches that you might miss with the naked eye. Taking a quick phone picture at the end of each session allows you to zoom in and notice details. It's also useful for documenting thread colors and spacing. Reviewing photos side by side can help you track progress or correct early mistakes. Store your snapshots in a folder by project name. For another trick, flip the photo horizontally to reveal any symmetry issues in your stitching. Snip clean with sharp embroidery scissors. A clean cut can make or break your thread work. Use small, sharp embroidery scissors for trimming floss ends and snipping knots without fraying fibers. Dull scissors can leave uneven edges, which catch and fray during stitching. Choose scissors with a pointed tip for precision, especially when working near tight stitches. Keep your scissors only for embroidery to preserve the blade's sharpness. Store them in a sheath or case to avoid damage. For an extra tip, wipe the blades occasionally with a dry cloth to remove lint, and every session by securing thread. Finishing your embroidery session properly prevents unraveling. Always end by weaving your thread tail under at least 3 stitches on the backside. This keeps your work neat and reduces the chance of tangling later. Avoid tying knots, which can create unwanted bulk. Instead, gently tug to check that the thread is anchored well. If you're using multiple colors, secure each individually before switching. Keep your hoop slightly loose overnight to relieve fabric tension. As a final step, cover your work with a clean cloth.